Everybody's morning. Good. So, we'll start the evening prayer.
Let's pray.
Please.
Dear Lord, we just want to take a moment this morning before we get started and thank you for the day that you've given us. We just want to lift up those this morning that are facing uncertainty, those that aren't sure what's ahead for them with their health or their jobs or their families. Lord, I just ask that you give them special wisdom and grace right now. And as we go through our agenda this morning, Lord, help us to not only serve our community, but also just be very mindful of the burdens that each of us in this room are carrying right now, and that we approach it with the right humility. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Welcome to all. Meeting minutes are always on the www.reservation.gov site. So anybody who has an interest in those, to that audience, but welcome to those who are in attendance. And attendance, speaking of attendance.
Clayton Matt,
Here.
Roger Noble,
Here.
George McLeod,
Here.
Ken Pitt,
Here.
Georgia Sneeze,
Here,
and Shane Hendrickson is absent.
Looking at the agenda, any potential conflicts of interest, Georgia?
no.
And? No. No, is that, George? No. And none here. Moving on to meeting minutes from 4:30. Take a look at those and be ready to. Motion to approve those. Did we close minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the Wednesday, April 30th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Motion by Georgia. Second. Second by Ken, all fair side.
I
Aye.
have to abstain because I wasn't at that meeting.
None opposed, Roger abstains. Minutes approved. Thank you. All right, board business, 2.1, board committee compensation for April 2025. So everyone's had a chance to look at yours.
Thanks for providing. Yes.
Well, I did, maybe I didn't want to adopt it. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Any questions, comments, concerns on the agenda?
I just have a comment on 3.1, the compensations for March and not April. For committee
We'll
compensation.
change that, that'll be from March. So paperwork also says April. One says March, one says
Right, one is March committee compensation, which is at 3.1. And then the other one is for board compensation at 3.2, which is April. We're still ironing out committee compensation for April, so we'll have that at the next meeting.
Three point one is from March.
Correct.
Okay, any other changes to the agenda?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the board committee compensation for March 2025.
We want to approve the agenda first.
Oh, yeah, okay. Move to approve the agenda. Sorry.
Motion by George, second by Rob. All in favor, say aye.
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 And not to speak public comment meeting. If there is any public to comment, anybody online?
If anyone online would like to comment, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak.
For any items not on the agenda.
Saying no public comment.
Hearing none. We move on for business 3.1, which is now committee compensation for committee compensation for March.
Which will be the green sheet that you guys have in your packet.
Any comments on that, any concerns?
I'll make the motion.
Did I take public comment? We'll take public comment.
If anyone online has a comment, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. Saying no public comment.
Any public comment to be heard, so any board, any action on this?
I'll make a motion. We approve the board committee compensation for March 2025.
Motion by Robert,
I'll second.
second by George, all in favor, say aye.
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 We have presentation from first call. Did I miss?
Yeah, it's for board compensation,
Board compensation is for April,
but that should also,
is that,
oh, I see, yeah, both.
so that's for April, board compensation for April. I think I responded to this, I think that was good. We should look at the big sheets of board compensation for April 2025. Comments or concerns?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the board compensation for April.
Motion, Georgia. Public comment?
That we see
Sure,
having-
public comment. For any public that are out there, we'll take public. We'll get this right, yeah.
Keep our coffee.
If anyone online has a comment, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak.
Is there any public comment?
Yeah.
Okay,
Saying no public comment.
no public comment on here in the audience, so motion, take a motion to approve.
Chairman,
Move to approve board compensation for April 2025.
Motion by Kim,
I'll second.
second by Georgia, all in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Okay. All right, look at that. Not missing anything.
good.
On to number 4.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
at the adopt the agenda portion, I should have brought up what I had emailed around, which was that Sean Butterfield asked to start at 9:45. And I forgot to make that request to maybe put the discussion of the local government center ahead of his presentation. Apologies.
So, that doesn't change the agenda much, just changes order, is the board good with that? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Item number 5, MSU Open Government Center, so who has that?
I'm happy to talk about it. What really had occurred is, we discussed it loosely at the last board meeting, and the board had requested to see some additional information. And I circulated the MSU Local Government Center's website, which has got more information than you could shake a stick at. And hopefully, board members got a chance to peruse that and do some contemplation on whether that was something that was of interest. That's ordering. Actually, I'm just noticing there's another error with the agenda. So I don't know if the board members had a chance to take a look at that. Or I know Georgia did chime in on an email on that she seemed interested in the training. For us, I guess the next step would be, the board deciding if they wanted me to try to organize something. Just as a reminder, I'm familiar with that group because other boards that I've worked with over time typically get training from that group in Montana. It's common for everything from county commissioner boards to water boards to any other board that's operating under Montana's open meeting laws to get a training from them. This body did have a training before George was here. I think, wasn't that like late 2022, I think is the reminder I sent out. Sorry to not fully remember the exact date. And so, the idea is that maybe always good to freshen up on the open meeting laws for both the Office of the Engineer and the board if the board's interested.
So I did glance at it a little bit. I don't have any specific comments. I think it would be good training. If the board feels like it's something you want, I think we can look at that. Haley, have you seen that, and are you familiar with it, or is it something that we recommend, or just something we can really work through ourselves?
I mean, I'm always a proponent of continual training. I mean, as an attorney, we have to do continuous legal education every single year, so I think it's always a good thing to revisit those types of trainings. I remember when they came in and discussed this in front of the board, I thought it was pretty comprehensive. I think at this point, now that we have some policies in place, some resolutions on this, it would be good to revisit the training to then also review our existing policies and resolutions as well.
Board members. And if we were to do this, is that something we just put on the agenda, or do we set a separate? We need to set a special meeting for that? How did that work last time?
Mr. Chairman, board members, we did have a special meeting that was generally dedicated to the training. I think there's potential to handle maybe a couple of other items at such a meeting if we needed to, but it will be the kind of thing that you'd want to commit, at least probably, I think it was 3 hours is what they usually target, but I can I'm happy to organize that if it's desired for me to do so, and I can build that into an agenda for your review after interacting with the trainer to see what maybe has changed since the last time. And furthermore, I do know that that particular trainer does offer, you know, a review of bylaws and other things in terms of open meetingness, if anybody's interested in some, you know, she, the associate director, I think her name is, her position is, in the past has offered to see if all of our open meeting laws, you know, meet the state open meeting standards also. So depending on how far you want to go with the training, you know, if you want just the general training, that would be a block of time. If you want perhaps a direct review of any bylaws or other aspects, that's another option. So I'm just here to kind of facilitate whatever you'd like to see, and I can put something together based on what your direction is.
Can I make a couple of clarifications on that?
Yeah.
So one, if you're gonna invite a representative who's more familiar with state open meeting laws, I would also advise that the board looks at somebody from the tribes to also weigh in on that. We don't have a specific requirement to follow the state's open meeting laws. It's whatever requires the most openness. So if the board is gonna do that, I would also suggest getting opinions from the tribes on that. As far as setting a meeting, if you're gonna set a special meeting, that's akin to an executive session, and so you cannot make any decisions in that meeting. So handling other business that would require board action is not appropriate unless it's an open meeting.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would welcome a refresher. I don't know that we need a review of our bylaws because we already have Haley. He's done an excellent job, so. That's just my.
And Mr. Chairman, their meetings are typically open meetings, the training.
Open meeting law training is open.
Yes, yes. So I didn't navigate that very well. Maybe
No,
I
that's
did.
okay.
Uh,
Articulating here what I'm hearing. Makes sense. So, you said, looking at what the tribes do, and you made one other point.
Oh, just that, you know, if the board wanted to handle other business, as suggested, it would need to be done in an open meeting. Board cannot make decisions in other types of meetings.
Was there, or is there a cost to this?
yes, there is a cost. I can't exactly remember what the cost is. I think some of it depended on if you wanted the training or if you wanted something additional.
If we just went with the training, what was that, yeah, right?
Well, Ethan's looking that up, I guess. I guess I'm always a proponent of training like this too, but I'm kind of wondering maybe if we should delay it, because in about half a year, there'll be 3 of us that are eligible for reappointment or not. So maybe there could be 3 new people, so that would be the time, I think, after this 4-year stint is up, and then to then have it. And in the meantime, maybe we could look in and see what the CSJT open meeting laws are, and be prepared to have it once that date is expired.
That was a suggestion. Thoughts? Did we consider the tribal policies when we viewed the open meeting law last time?
No,
Well, in creating our bylaws, yes. As far as training from somebody from the tribes, no. As far as I know, I'm not familiar with that specific training through the tribes.
And I don't know if they have a specific training. I think they would probably assign one of the attorneys to talk about what the policy or practices are, because I'm not sure they have a specific open meeting policy or law, unless they change that. It's certainly something to ask. Maybe we want to just get that information anyway. So Roger has a suggestion, so any comments, suggestions, thoughts on it?
That makes sense to me, Mr. Chairman, if we, what do you say, about 3 months? The
End of the year.
end of the year.
Did you come up with a cost?
Mr. Chairman, board members, it looks like you could, if you go for the standard training, which is live online, you could get it as cheap as 500. If you want an in-person training, there's a half-day option, which is $1,000 plus travel costs, and there's a full-day option, which is $1,500 plus travel costs. And having worked with you as a body before, I would say that the in-person training might be, that would generally be the spot that you've landed on your preferences in the past.
Was it in person training? I didn't do that.
Yeah.
In person?
It was you.
It was half day, that's.
And it was half day. So given the amount of dollars, we can change, but it's not exorbitant, so we could do both, and we could live in it. And then when and if new people are on, just do it anyway. Maybe make it a practice to do it once or every couple of years or something. So, I mean, there are options, so thoughts.
So I thought, Chairman, I thought I heard Ethan say we prefer live.
He was just, I think, suggesting that we might be wanting in person.
I kind of agree with that.
Would you like to do in-person training?
I think so.
Or
I prefer in person too.
you would prefer to do it rather than hold off?
Well, that was not my answer to that question, I
I
guess.
get that, I get that. I'm just trying to, move this forward, so.
Sure.
If we want it, let's do it. If we want to hold off, let's hold off.
Well,
I'm 50-50, so.
well, I'm thinking of you, George. You haven't had the benefit of this yet, so,
And
I-
what?
okay, well then, okay, I'll just throw my 2 cents in. I do think we should have it then. Whether it's in person or not, I guess that's a budget discussion, but I do think it would help us to have it this year and then again next year, if there's a lot of turnover on the board, seems appropriate, especially if the stuff we've got ahead of us this year, I think it'd be beneficial. I would benefit from a review too. I mean, even though I was here, it wouldn't hurt me to hear it again, so.
And I could use it, so I would be a big review on it. Have them review earlier. And then another one next year for if we get new people.
What we need action, just consensus, I think, the consensus, go forward with an in-person half day. In-person half day, they're good. We did that. Let's, with consensus, we'll move forward. Get a half day in-person. Your general, whatever the general training is. Go from there. Now, in terms of the tribal piece, either Ethan or Haley, you guys want to get hold of them and get some information and or invite them to that, or how do you suggest we do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to reach out to, one of the tribe's attorneys and see how they, best practice that, internally, so.
And then coordinate with them if it's appropriate to bring them here, or maybe just get their information.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's fine.
all right. Yeah. Appreciate it. Anything else on that? Thanks, Ethan. So is it 9:45?
Think you got them all.
Yeah, he's right here, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a presentation from First Call, Sean Butterfield. I see someone online there. Is that you, Sean?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, well, welcome. Probably haven't met everyone, so can you see us all okay?
I can, yes.
Okay, so very quickly, we'll just go around so you know who you're talking to.
Okay.
Let's start with you. Just go around.
Hi, I'm Haley Franzen, I'm the board's attorney.
Nice to meet
Rhonda
you.
Botten, Finance Director.
Georgia Smith, board member.
Ken Pitt, board member.
Clayton, Matt, board member and chair.
Roger Noble, vice chair. George McLeod, board member.
Ethan Mays, hi Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Sydney Palmer, water resource specialist.
And we have other staff in the audience here. I don't know if you can see them, but we have other staff who are present for the meeting as well. So thanks, Sean. Ethan, Sean, take it away.
I'll just introduce Sean real quick. We're lucky to have him. He is the person who manages our main contract with First Call. He is the one who's also kind of brought forward the suggestion and the need for us to embark on some enhanced defenses and cybersecurity. And he is the one who has provided us 2 documents that he may opt to reference today. And I'm just going to show them to you. There's the 2025 IT strategy report, which you've seen before, but you have before you again. And then also the enhanced defenses and cybersecurity document. And Sean did in advance want us to make sure that you had availability to both of those documents. But with that, Sean, I will shut up and let you talk. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I do have I was going to just get up here because I know the time is short, and I know this is just a dynamic, exciting topic of IT to talk about that everyone's probably just on the edge of their seats. But it is important. It is an important part of everything. So I appreciate you, the chairman, and the board for having me and allowing me this time. So I'm going to first just what my plan was just to kind of frame everything up. I did create a little slideshow because it's just easier than sitting here listening to me talk. So I'll give you a real broad framework, and then I really want to try and get through it quickly so I can leave it open for you guys to ask questions. And so hopefully that I can answer all the questions that you have. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Yeah, someone I think needs to give me permission to share my screen.
I think you gotta request it.
It just says sharing is not turned on. The host isn't allowing sharing for this webinar.
You know the participants. Sure. And now?
Yes. Great. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So I'm with First Call. One of the things I'd like to really explain to people, because if you're from Montana, I think this means a lot, and I think it's really relevant here. I've had the luxury in my life to work for medium-sized Montana-owned businesses, and that's what I think is the beauty of First Call, and what does make us special compared to a lot of different options out there. We are Montana-owned, and we really take that serious. And right below our logo here, you can see this little graphic. It talks about really the things that we look at as far as what we want to offer. You know, ideally, we want happy end users, because, you know, nobody would use this if you couldn't get, if IT didn't give you some operational boosts and happy end users, we wouldn't even deal with it. So fewer issues, risk prevention, robust recovery, cloud communication and collaboration, operational and financial alignment, and level 10 meetings. That's kind of how we go about operating, and me as a VCIO, which is a fancy term for a dedicated account manager. So my name is Sean Butterfield. I work for First Call. I'm based out of Missoula, Montana. Ideally, what we want to do is I'm going to give you just kind of a framework of a managed service agreement. With our managed service agreements, we want to align our customers with First Call's tech stack and our security standards. Below are a few logos of the companies that are a part of our tech stack. With this, we boost productivity by preventing downtime and improving efficiency, minimizing vulnerabilities through standardized security protocols, adapt to an ever-changing IT and security environment, and we encourage technology budgets that match business productivity goals. Here are the basic ingredients in your managed service agreement. First of all, you guys are an Essentials 1, which you have full support on site and remote. You have a managed firewall. That's your initial line of defense. You have managed backups. We offer M365 backups, which you guys have, workstation backups, on-premise backups, and cloud backups. You also have baseline security, and it's kind of centered around training and just awareness. We have security awareness training videos that are available, phish testing, and dark web monitoring. We also really, one of the biggest components of your agreement is you get what is called a technical alignment manager visit, and you have me as a dedicated VCIO. The technical alignment manager is going to be visiting your site once a year. When we first onboarded you, what we did is the technical alignment manager, which is a TAM, and the VCIO, which is me, we came out and he went through your whole IT environment. He documented everything so we can put it in our system so support can give you the best service possible in case we need to do any type of support work with you. Every year he's going to come back around and he's going to document changes. He's going to see if there's anything just obvious, and it's more of a proactive visit. Once he is done, I'm going to take his information, and that's what I use to build that IT strategy report that you're looking at right now. One change that we have made this year, as just a little history, we deal with businesses that have Department of Defense contracts, hospitals, a lot of HIPAA, credit unions. You know, those are kind of the ones that we deal with. So security, we do have a really big advanced security package that's made for those types of businesses. 95% of my customers couldn't even begin to afford that, nor would it be necessary. So this is kind of the base ingredients of your managed service agreement. A typical managed service agreement covers this. This is what is involved in. It's kind of a graphic, a little bit easier to understand. Everything in here in the green is what we cover and protect. So think of this in the green as your brick and mortar facility. You have the internet, and the first line of defense that comes through your modem is your firewall. Then that firewall will go down into your switch, which will then disperse the internet, safe internet, to all your devices. one of the big changes, and the reason that I'm talking about advanced security, is back in the day, and even still today, people would have email exchange servers within this protected environment, and all your email was in this environment. So it was safe behind the firewall in a nice, safe IT environment. Up above here, you'll see this red box that has all the Microsoft products in it. Those are in the cloud, but those are not protected behind our firewall and our other services. So kind of heading into the reason for security and advanced security concerns. Business email compromises, BEC, is widely recognized as the #1 cybersecurity threat to businesses today, especially in terms of financial loss. Business email compromise is less a failure of technology, but more a failure of trust. This is what's really important. Social engineering preys on human instincts, not system flaws. It's a people problem. Attackers don't need to hack your systems anymore when they can trick your people. Business email compromises succeeds by manipulating trust, urgency, and authority, making awareness and training our strongest defense. Awareness and training is a layer to this defense. Business email compromise targets humans, not technology. It bypasses firewalls and antivirus by tricking people, not machines. It uses social engineering to pose as executives, vendors, or partners. Small businesses are not immune. I hear a lot of people say, hey, we're so small, no one's going to care about us. Dental offices, law firms, real estate agencies, and nonprofits are all common victims, especially because attackers assume they have weaker controls. And most of the time they are correct. Business email compromises are hard to detect. This is kind of in defense of the people. I have very, very smart people, technically smart, IT smart, even security smart, that get caught by a phishing email. I got caught by one of our phishing test emails as well. It is a little embarrassing to say, but it's one of those things where it wasn't that I didn't recognize it. It just caught me on a day when everything was just going crazy. And it just so happened to be like a SharePoint. It was posing as a SharePoint for human resources on a vacation request. And right when I clicked on it, I knew it. I knew exactly what it was. But like I said, it wasn't that I didn't understand it. It was just, it was a day. So they are hard to detect. The emails look legitimate. They often don't include links or attachments, so they just slip by spam filters. And one thing to also consider is AI. Now that AI is involved, you used to be able to look at these things and you could kind of tell by the grammar or anything. AI has made it a lot harder to detect these. So on the flip side, we have to use AI to counter this. Here's just a few facts. An FBI report of 2024, business email compromise scams caused over 2.9 billion in losses in the US alone, more than ransomware, data breaches, and phishing combined. Since tracking began in 2013, the FBI's Internet Crime Compliance Center, IC3, has recorded over 305 BEC incidents worldwide, with total exposed losses exceeding $55 billion. BEC attacks accounted for 73% of all reported cyber incidents in 2024, highlighting their widespread nature. And this is the urgency. Since I started 2 years ago with First Call, our business email compromises have doubled each week. So I don't know if any of you have ever been in like a hospital when they call a code, and you can see the staff, you can see the urgency, you can see the whole energy of the staff change. That's exactly what it's like at First Call. When we get a business email compromise, it's all hands on deck. So it is something serious. It's something we take serious. It's not something that we are trying to sell or we are trying to push on to people. It's about maintaining your productivity and ours, because if our support team is always helping with business email compromises or security breaches, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing or what we are meant to be doing. And neither are you, for that matter. So that is the urgency behind this. So what are we doing here? What is First Call doing to help you? We have created a program called Enhanced Defenses. We've had advanced security for years. Like I said, I have one customer, it's $3,800 a month, and their managed IT agreement is $3,800 a month. That is not going to work for most all of my people. So, we've had this for a long time for our DoD accounts, for our credit unions, our hospitals. So as the incidences have increased, we have decided to try and find something that will fit our smaller customers, but knowing that we're already stretched on IT budgets, and many of my businesses and clients don't even have IT budgets. So we have come up with Enhanced Defenses is what we call it. It has taken some key components out of our advanced security package, and we have applied them to our new managed services agreements. The key components of them of Enhanced Defenses is EDR, which is Endpoint Detection and Response, and MDR, Managed Detection and Response. EDR is software that continuously monitors devices like computers, laptops, and servers for suspicious activity. Endpoints. Your endpoints are your servers, your tablets, your laptops. MDR is a service where security experts monitor your systems 24/7 using EDR tools to respond to threats on your behalf. You'll see here at the end, and in that security package, a house analogy is really good, So I'm going to go through this and then I will get to that house analogy. So endpoint detection and response detects threats like ransomware, malware, and hackers. It uses algorithms, it uses AI to catch things, hopefully before it gets to your people that sometimes don't make the best decision. Responds automatically or alerts IT staff, which it would alert your MDR security team. Tracks activity across your system for investigation, essential for all remote work protection. Managed detection response adds a human expertise to EDR technology. It acts like a 24/7 security team watching your network. We have added people to our security team so we could have a dedicated team just for the MDR piece of this. Investigates alerts and contains threats quickly. And this is a beautiful piece for businesses that can't afford full-time cybersecurity staff. So if you imagine your business as a house, the EDR is a security system with alarms and cameras. So if you kind of look back, your firewall, your backups, your security training would be like the old days of locking your doors and closing your windows and locking those as well. That was your security. Now the EDR would be like having cameras and motion sensors. But with those cameras and motion sensors, you're not going to just sit there and monitor those all day. And if something does happen, you don't know what to do with it. That's where the MDR comes in. The MDR would be like the managed piece of a home security system. This would be the company that you bought this security system from, that when they detect something, they contact you and they have the answers and they have the next steps to lead you in the direction to make a good educated decision. So MDR would be like your professional security team watching your cameras 24/7. They verify the threat, they respond immediately, they call you and the authorities if needed. So in summary, EDR tells you something's wrong, MDR takes action on your behalf. So to look at this graphic again, now with the new enhanced defenses, you're covered like you always have been in your brick and mortar place of business. And also you are covered here because all your email now is not on an Exchange server. Everyone is moving their email to the cloud. So that was the one piece of managed service agreements that we could not cover properly and protect properly. With enhanced defenses, we can now go into the cloud, your Microsoft M365 environment, and we can install the EDR endpoint protection pieces and also custom templates and custom programming that will allow the EDR to talk with us and us to manage it and monitor. A lot of people say, well, doesn't Microsoft Cloud have its own security? Yes, it does. But that's like saying Missoula has a police department. The police department has nothing to do with my initiative to go out and get an individual security system for my house. So with that being said, that is kind of the presentation on our current agreements and a little bit of the reasoning why we are adding enhanced defenses and the price of your agreement has gone up. So I can now go over to this IT strategy report that I provided you guys with. And from what I had talked with Ethan is that you guys had questions on that, questions on what was included in your managed service agreement, and possible questions about enhanced defenses. So I am going to open it up to you guys for questions. And if there's anything that I can answer, I will definitely do that. And if I don't have the answer, I will find it.
Thank you, Sean. Questions? I'll start. Just because many of us also use phones and also access emails through our phones, and including our personal phones. I don't know if that makes a difference, but how does that affect what you're able to do for us?
The phone really is not going to be affected because when you log into your Microsoft 365 account, that's when it all takes place. So all the monitoring is taking place actually even as your emails are coming into your email account. So let's say it comes in, an email comes into your Microsoft 365 Outlook account. It has already been, the EDR has already looked at it and kind of gave it an initial scan, and if there's something that needs to be detected, it will be. It will not infect your phone. What it would do is it would infect your network if it got through. Does that make sense?
Yes. From a security standpoint, though, if we're accessing, which I do personally, access a lot of my personal email and business email through my phone, is there any added, let me put it this way, is there any added risk for us for the board and our activity from us individually using our cell phones to access business emails?
No, because you are, once again, you're accessing them after you've logged into the safe environment. The one thing that I would say though is that everybody who is in your building, including employees and when board members are in the building, should never have any of their personal devices connected to the same Wi-Fi network as the IT network. So if you guys have a guest Wi-Fi, all employees should connect through the guest Wi-Fi. It's not as big a deal because most people have unlimited minute plans. So, like when I'm at First Call, I never connect to their Wi-Fi. I just stay with my Verizon because I have a good signal and I don't need to. But there is some risk if you are mixing personal and also on the same the same Wi-Fi as your network. So, do you guys have a guest network there?
I see heads nodding. I assume then we do. I'm thinking about whether I have seen that like on my phone. I should double check that because
That right there where you've signed on.
Okay.
Is our guest network.
Okay. All right. Yes, we do.
Perfect. I mean, it's just making a conscious effort and going around and just making sure that all the employees are connecting their personal devices just to the guest network. But to answer your question, that is really the biggest risk is when you're mixing personal devices on the same network as your IT network. And I don't, did that answer your question?
I think so. I mean, I know enough about this stuff to be less, more than dangerous, so. That's why we asked the question, but I guess we want to make sure we understand. Any other questions from the board members?
One of the questions we had last time that we couldn't answer was like on page 4 of the brochure that you've got up there. It's a bar chart down.
This one?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So this is just, so what I do is, the way we do our agreements are estimates. That is all it is. We cannot have any clue what support usage is going to be with a customer, especially with the newer customer. So the reason we do 3-year agreements is we hope to average out right at where we want to be, the profit margin in which we can do business in and pay our bills and pay our people. So support is something that I track. Also, what I do is, let's say you guys think, hey, we're paying a little too much, and I'm looking for ways to get your price down. So if we're looking to maybe get price down and maybe we've gotten all your whole business is well aligned, we don't have a lot of support usage, I say, well, why don't we move down to a lesser agreement that doesn't include remote and on-site support, and you guys will just pay a lower agreement price, but you pay for all your support used on an hourly basis. So with these IT reports, I go in and I look at all of 2024. You guys used 119.75 hours, and this chart basically just gives you a real broad idea, what categories they were in. If I can't remember if I figured that out. If I take 119, I don't know if anyone has a calculator handy there. I have one here. If I take 119 hours times our lowest tier support rate, 150, that's $17,850 of support that was used in 2024. Now, some of those could be tier 2 and tier 3 support engineers that have helped. I'm just taking it by tier 1. So if I divide that by 12, I get $1,487 a month just in support usage. That doesn't count all the equipment, the VCIO, the TAM, as far as the package. So when I look at that, I'm saying, okay, support in 2024 was high, but there's also things that skew that, like if you guys have new PCs and you get them installed, or we're trying to get a printing issue figured out, there are some pain points and some time points that are necessary to create better alignment, proactive work to create better alignment in the long run. For someone like you guys, the first 2 years, we expect things to be a little bit higher. And then, if we're doing our job right, and if you take our recommendations, we will eventually get you more aligned to where these hours go down. And then I think I have 2025 here, which shows that you guys are trending a lot lower. So that is some of the main reasons I do these calculations, because I am looking, I'm half for my customer and I'm half for my company. I am here trying to find ways to get you guys the most effective and efficient agreement. And I do that with all my customers. Does that answer your question?
Any other questions? You touched on AI. I think we all sort of are aware that AI is out there, whatever that means. For you and for us in our operation, What challenge does that pose? And is there anything additionally that we should be thinking about for future management?
That's a great question. So we are heavily investing time and research into AI. We have had numerous of our clients approach us. What kind of policies should we develop on AI? You know, the same types of concerns and awareness of AI. You know, to kind of start this off, you know, we were all around when the internet first came. We understood the growth of it. We understood the impact and the troubles that came along with it, and now where it is positioned in our life. AI is going to be exactly the same impact, possibly more. So AI is here. It's not going anywhere. In this initial stage, what we're telling people, especially this is the perfect group for me to have this conversation with, is we are trying to tell the upper level management, board members, executives, get yourself a ChatGPT free account and play with it. Play with it personally. Ask it questions. Take a topic that you know well inside and out, ask it questions, and you'll be able to get a feel for the accuracy. There are some inaccuracies in it, you know, and you'll get to learn how to use it and play around with it. That is initially what we're telling people right now, so you are familiar with it. We 2020, the rest of 2024 and 25, we are going to heavily invest in AI and start as we implement it within our business, sharing it with our clients as well. But it is in the early stages. We just got our own accounts. I've had one for a couple years. I've used it for a couple years. And a lot of people have in our business, and they've just provided us with accounts, and we're just playing around with it. We use it a lot. AI is meant, you know, a lot of people are afraid that it's going to replace jobs, and it will replace jobs. But it will also, one of the biggest things that it is meant to do is create efficiencies. And I'll just share one quick story with you. My colleague went up to the school, I don't know what they call it, convention, where all the teachers and all the educators meet, and he does all the schools. So that's kind of his area. And they had a high school teacher, get up and give a discussion on AI, and he talked about how you can create these things called chats and your own GPTs, you know. And he created one to grade his essays. So you can train it as you do it, and you have it grade an essay, and it comes back. You know, when he first started, it was about 50% accurate of how he would grade. So he started adding things to it. Can you do it this way? Can you change this? Can you change that? And he got it up after about 7 months of playing around with it. He got it to where it was about 95% accurate. What that did for him, and what his testimony in that was, is that now all that time that he was spending grading papers, he now gets to spend with his kids in the class. So those are similar story. That's kind of a story, and there's a bunch of similar stories like that. And you know, that's where you guys have to look at it and say, where can we use this to create efficiencies? And it starts with you just playing around with it yourself. And you can even ask it, how is the best way to use this? This is what I do for a living. How can I use you to make my life better? You know, so anyways, that would be my initial summary and thoughts on how you guys should start approaching AI.
From a security standpoint, what challenge does it raise? I mean, for AI, is it to be used to actually create, you know, as little as I know about it, create ways to attack our systems, and part of outside of email, our biggest concern is going to be protecting our data. Because we have public data that is grounded in the law, and people are going to depend on it.
Yes, it already is trying to get to your data. It's already being used by cybersecurity people who are trying to get to your stuff. Yes, so criminals is what I was trying to say. So in part, that is what we're doing. This is kind of like a nuclear warhead thing. You know, I have 25 and you have 30. I better get myself up to 30. It's kind of working that way with AI on both sides. You know, as cybersecurity criminals learn how to use it, the good guys have to learn how to use it to counter that. So it is already being used that way. And it's just going to be the key is always going to be trying to keep everything neutral as much as possible. And ideally, yes, the good guys would like to have the edge, you know, but it just kind of goes back and forth in that arena. But yes, it is already being used to do that. Your data uh, should be all in SharePoint, which is one, protected by the Microsoft cloud and the Microsoft environment, and then two would be a little bit more micro protected through our enhanced defenses with the EDR and MDR protection as well.
So, just a side note, I'm aware, for example, I've talked to people in the education environment, and there are instructors who are now using AI detection software in a, again, I don't know what I'm talking about, but is that something you use? Is that something that is important for what you do? And is there anything about that we at our level should be thinking about and doing?
Well, you know, the school, the university, the educational environment, you know, you're always going to have kids and other people that are trying to find a way ahead, and you know, plagiarism and all these different things, you know, is where a lot of that is stemming from. That AI detection software right now for us is not really a big thing in any way, shape, or form. One thing to always keep in mind, you guys still are the experts. You know, you still know your business, you know your industry, you know your material, you know your data. Um, AI is just meant to be a helper. So as far as AI detection, no, we don't have anything with that. We haven't really had any call for it. But that's where it's going to go. I mean, if you think about searching the web or watching things, you know, is this AI? Is this real? I mean, it's always going to pose a threat to manipulating people. And once again, it's the balance of good guy, bad guy, that's always going to be taking place. And like I said, if you really want something to kind of reference back to, just think of the internet and how it started and how people started using that for good and how people started using it for bad. It's going to be the same process.
Okay, well, don't take this too seriously, but are you AI?
Hey, if I was AI, I would do a little bit more with these wrinkles and this gray hair and this gray here.
All right, just wanted to be sure. Your MDR, I again maybe covered that a little bit. I saw you said it. What I couldn't tell is if there are actual people supporting MDR, or you have what I heard you might have said is there is like there are people, so there's an algorithm or something. So MDR.
So the MDR would be real people 24/7. We always have someone on call. The EDR is more of the automated process of it. The EDR, when you look at your agreement and I'm saying, hey, Ethan, I need you guys to purchase more licenses, that's for the EDR part. Those licenses attach to your current licenses, or we had talked about upgrading to a different license that has it included. So that is the more automated algorithm AI piece of it that is going to go in, and as Sydney gets emails, it's going to scan them for the common threats that are out there. I mean, it's basically a very sophisticated antivirus type of a product, you know, just for a good way to give you an idea. That is what's going to alert the MDR team of certain things. They'll look at it and say, is this benign? Or is this something that we need to give, Ethan or the board a call about and discuss, and I see it all the time. A lot of times we will see something, we will call, and we will get an explanation from someone within the organization that justifies why is someone why is someone accessing their account from Hong Kong. Well, we have a buyer who's over there at a show. So those are the things that we pick up, and we do end up contacting you on certain smaller things that we need some clarification on.
Were you able to detect when Roger was in Hawaii?
If he was actively if he was doing things that the EDR thought were not normal, we would have. So maybe Roger was in Hawaii and he wasn't doing all that he was supposed to be doing, so it seemed normal. I don't know.
Or maybe it was AI. I don't.
On that front, though, if you do try to log on from a different country, it will not let you. So, we have
set that up.
we have set certain restrictions, and so, if board members are going out of country and they need to have access, you'll need to work with me to where we can get that situated for you, because there's enough, additional threats that are stemming from out of the country where we could just kind of quarantine those out and eliminate login attempts from those locations. And if you have something like on your phone, some people have a virtual private networks set up on their phone, and those cycle through different addresses, and you can set it to remain in the United States, or you can set it just randomly. It might go to Canada. If you are using one of those VPNs and it shows an outside of country location, it will not let you log into our system.
Well, good to know, because I have had to and probably will be in and out of Canada if they'll let me. And I had that similar experience with my phone in Canada, where the company actually had to turn on some kind of switch that allowed me to actually make international calls. Right. So,
Ethan, did we do everything outside of Mexico, United States, and Canada? Do you remember on that conditional access what we decided on? Or was it just everything outside of the United States gets blocked?
I thought it was the US, Sean,
Okay.
but we can revisit it, and I'll send an update to the board members after we check the settings again, and we'll of course modify things for you, Mr. Chairman, if you need to.
if we need,
Make an access point from Canada.
Yeah, I'm not asking to do that, just curious. Any other questions from board members? I know I'm kind of putting on a few. So Ethan, Sean, as you look at what we're doing, and you've obviously had an opportunity to look at us in some detail, trying to use your crystal ball, what does it look like we should be doing and or getting ready for as we look forward to the next couple years?
Well, you guys have been doing it. I mean, you guys have taken our recommendations. We, getting this enhanced defenses all set up and deployed is going to be really a big step. What Ethan was talking about with the conditional access and the MFA, that's another huge step in security. The next step that I'm going to have you guys do is, and this is technical jargon, and I'm not the most technical, but we're going to enable SPF, DKIM, and DMARC on your emails, which will be another added piece to it. So it really is just a layered approach. One of the things that we did this year is we created a new set of standards. We base them on NIST standards, which are government standards. DoD Department of Defense standards. And we came up with a new audit that's 200 questions. So our TAMs have went through all these questions and went through all of your business. And I will be getting that. Well, I've gotten it. I have to go through it. It takes me 2 hours and I got about 14 of them stacked up. So I will go through that question by question, and then it will spit out a report that will show vulnerabilities. It will show things that, aren't that big a deal, but would be nice to be fixed, kind of like when you go to Jiffy Lube, here's this, and this, we recommend this you don't have to do. But for the most part, you guys are really going in a good direction. I mean, I feel like, I just feel like everybody cares, for starters. I deal with a lot of clients that just don't believe it. They think this stuff is fake, that it's never happened to them before. I see the security breaches. I've seen 4 of them of my own customers since I've started, and I've seen it happen twice to the same customer. So I just appreciate that you guys take it seriously, and that you trust me enough to listen to what I have to say. And I'm going to give you the lowest end opportunity, and I'm going to give you the highest end, and then you can find your way of what you want to do with it, and how you want to proceed from there. I'm just going to give you the information so you can make better informed decisions. But no, I feel like you guys are doing great. That is the reason I did not increase your price up to the fullest amount. I have a tool that estimates it. It goes by how many endpoints, it goes by the equipment you have. And it came out at $1,560 a month. And just because you guys were trending better on the support, and you do a lot of the recommendations, I had the ability to go in and say, listen, let's just see how this goes, and can we give them to the end of the year and see if we can, this is going to continue to trend. So that's where I fight for you guys when you do all the stuff that we ask, or the majority of it that's reasonable. That is some of the power I do have.
All right, much appreciated. Yeah, I think we've all had our own individual experiences. In another organization I've seen personally, emails come from people that are in that organization, or at least it was supposed to have been, and it wasn't. So we've seen simple examples of that, but haven't run into that here. But like I said, outside our emails, or I think as far as the board is concerned, and staff, I think our data is going to be the biggest thing to secure here, and being able to make sure that is the most secure as we move forward is going to be critical. So any other questions?
And you guys have that stored up in SharePoint. And once again, SharePoint is so complex that, I wish I could just take a week and go to training on it, to learn how to tighten things down a little bit more. It's kind of like our cell phones. We use about 10% of their ability. SharePoint is infinite. But one thing to always remember, and I'll just kind of close with this, is that everybody can be hacked no matter what. The Department of Defense, the Pentagon, you can always be hacked. There's always going to be an opening. It's just timing. It's just everything comes aligned. What we do is we try and close as many of those gaps as we can.
So just one last thing is, if the staff, Ethan, you or staff, we haven't anything you want to ask or touch on?
No, Sean, I really do appreciate you showing up and answering all the questions and giving a great presentation. Thank you. And you've kept us on the right track so far.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me, and I'm willing to come back anytime.
All right, John, maybe we'll get to actually see you in person one day.
Hey, I have no problem driving up there.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a great day.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
All right. We're good. Need a break. So I hear a call for a break, so let's take a break. Thank you. All right, thanks. So we are back. Moving on to, if I'm not mistaken, item number 6, Officer of the Water Engineer. Take it away, Ethan.
Mr. Chairman, it does look like there was an inadvertent paragraph deletion between, on item number 5, between the word discussion and budget. Which would leave, items 5.1 and 5.2 were supposed to really be under 6. Apologies about that happening, but, okay. We could, just go on to 5.1. Call it good if that works for you.
If that is part of your presentation, please do.
Sure, and that item was in for, Ron, and she ran what he said.
I don't have a budget discussion because the budget committee is meeting today. But I do have some finance updates, if you guys don't mind. You have a folder in front of you that says finance on it. One of the things to take a look at is we did get our funding. And so these are the statements of our accounts that's in there. So that's really good news. Thank you, Ethan, for making sure that that was in the accounts and letting us all know via email. That was nice. The second thing we have is an update on our PERS lost earnings for Ethan and James. You have a little bit of a handout here. You have a PERS review that we completed on Ethan and James, and then on the top sheet, we do have the actual calculations. So I performed the calculations using their calculator, and there was a little bit of a variation, and so we had Empower do the calculations. And to explain this, we had on the second or the first spreadsheet, those line items that have the stars in them are the ones that we were able to catch up, but we caught them up late. And so those are the ones that were deemed lost earnings. And so those are the calculations that we had to do. And so with Ethan, I believe there was 9 of them that we had. And so his lost earnings came out to $44.11. And James had 5 of them, and his lost earnings came out to $17.67. So I just really want to let you guys know that there was a lot of people involved in that. We had Jessie Herbert Minnie, she was Education and Communications Bureau Chief, was directly involved. Diana and Karen with Impera were directly involved. We had Holly Ressler, Deputy Director for Impera, and then we had a Holly Zafora with Empower, and her title was Senior Client Services Manager. So quite a bit of work went into this, and we're now moving into phase 2 where we're doing loss calculations for Sydney and myself. And so that's going to be forthcoming. Hopefully it won't take as long because we now got a process, and the deposits for James and Ethan are going to take place Wednesday, if not Friday. And that's going to be done with a Zoom meeting and several people from Empower and Impera involved. So other than that, I think that's kind of where we're at right now, and then we'll have more after the budget meeting.
All right, very good. Any questions? Robert?
I have 2 questions. So first question is on the 1-page handout.
Yep.
So that is our balance as of today or yesterday or whatever,
As up to this morning.
as of this morning, and we're already through 2 quarters of this fiscal year, so we're sitting pretty good.
We are. Yep.
Yeah, help getting those agreements done, funny.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Maybe we get the process down future years and.
Yes. We are.
clarify this.
We're ready to provide first quarter and second quarter reports to the budget committee. Right now, we're working through the formatting, so we know that once we start submitting a formatting, they're going to expect to see it a certain way. So we're working through the logistics, and hopefully with the budget committee tonight, we'll be able to kind of iron that out. But then when we come to this next quarter, which we're only a month away before we're needing to really concentrate on the third quarter. So hopefully we'll have this down and we'll get a little bit more fluid. And then we'll be able to pivot into fiscal year 2026 because that's what we need to do this fall. So
and have reporting coming up, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think we had email conversation and something I think we're interested in is with this as after you have the budget meeting, maybe we can kind of do another snapshot review of the budget
Absolutely.
here. So they have a really good sense of, you know, not just the account balances, but where we stand with our budget. And I know that there were a number of items we talked about in this last several months and
Mhm.
that may or may not be actually in the budget, the things we talked about in the meeting. But yeah, it'd be good to have that conversation.
Yes, and we're going to definitely be able to provide you the actuals and show you what percentage through the budget we will be sitting on some things. We are, you know, there is obviously some stuff that we didn't think about that we need to think about in 2026.
Yeah, make your list. Board members, make your list, check twice. So this amount here, is intended to carry us through.
6 more months. But that also, this is also having the application. And 180-day appropriation money, that's all included in that. So we need to iron that out too, because this is all lumped together at this point. So your water application fees and stuff that the funding parties, I believe that they're not needing to know the allocations for that. But we need to keep track of it separately.
So I do have some projections that, you know, have some of the 6 months, the really course. This is something Roger had asked for.
Yeah, before we go there, though,
Okay.
my second question.
I'm just gonna walk around and stick out and talk around you.
Well, this is, I don't know what triggered this, but on this other back calculation payout thing, I guess my question is, why did that occur? And what can we do to make sure it doesn't occur again?
So that was the difficulty we had with gaining accounts into Eric. We hope that the Impura, they have hired a software engineer and put it in their budget to hopefully fix the system. But not only getting access to the account through Marie, that took some time because she didn't hand over anything. Getting things set up and then learning the system, it resulted in several payments that were made late. Until we got our feet underneath of us and could figure out how to operate the system. And so we've got it down now where we're, I wouldn't say proficient, but we're operating within the system just fine. And so that's hopefully never gonna happen again. So both Tina and I are working diligently together to both have that training. So if one's absent, the other one can step in and do it. So we don't run into this problem again.
How many hours do you figure you had in trying to reconcile that?
Just my hours
And Tina's?
and Tina's hours, over 40 on both of us probably.
That doesn't count the folks, the other folks.
No, the spreadsheets and stuff are actively being worked on for the other contributions. Once, because each deposit has to have a separate paperwork that gets submitted to Empower. So each transaction is tracked individually, and so it's time consuming to make those calculations. And then we submit it over to them, and then they actually have a team that will go through it, so. It's labor intensive.
Big job. Thank you for that work.
Yep. But I'm happy to say that we're at the end and the deposits are gonna be happening, if not Friday, Wednesday for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I had.
Any other questions on that? All right. Ethan?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, so I put together something that is pretty coarse look at where we're at with new appropriations. You have two pages in front of you, and you could pull up the spreadsheet. It's in the meeting material. Yeah, so, thank you. We'll go to the tab that's like the some projection. Oh, that one right there. Yeah. Okay. Oh, everything on that. Anyway, so the first page you have here should look familiar. It's just the page that was submitted with the funding agreement. Okay, and so, no big surprise there, but just given out, for reference. And, so then on the second page, you can kind of put them next to each other and they line out. And, and that's what was intended to do. And on the second page, all that has really happened is I looked at, there's a lot of things that would improve the actual estimates. But I just, took May, June, July, August, and September, divided our totals, from the projection by, by 12 for each month. And then, ran kind of an update with the new appropriation money that we've got, how much we have projected to spend for the remainder of FY 2025. I added in, vacancy savings, from our last set of money, and then also vacancy savings carryover after the operations have all been spent. You'll see, one thing that's a real difference, here is there's no unfunded operations under the FY 2025, which is in contrast to the 219,000 that we had as an unfunded amount, with the funding agreement spreadsheet that had gone out. And so, then I not knowing exactly what all to take out of the FY 2025, I do think we need to, continue to manage the remainder of the 185,000, one-time money. And, we had, committed to spending, 62,558 of that during the fiscal year, 2025. You'll remember we have a list of things that, everybody looked through. And that list of things is they're all essential items still and would need to be accounted for, but I would consider that to be a high priority bundle of money to use up for FY 2025 so that we can resolve any remaining balance in terms of that one-time funding. Then I stuck in here the total of the unfunded reserve funds. You remember there were several accounts that we had talked about. One, in fact, includes some money for the business for paying to get the engineers to do a cost estimate. So that that's in that bundle of money. But in totality, that was, we left that at 425,000. There was never really an expectation that that would all get funded by the end of FY 2025, but just for the purposes of this course calculation, I stuck it in there and it can be modified. But even with that full funding, we would have a remainder of 186,049 from the original budget values used, which then when applied to FY 2026, which would still be a little short of that 219,000 overage. Now there are numerous individual line items that would need to be discussed and adjusted. Specifically, there's amounts that are factored in for temporary contracts for employees, and I know that those are changed. We need to make some adjustments for some of our IT expenses. I'm sure when Tina and Rhonda get their real numbers out, that there'll be even furthermore, some adjustments that would need to be happening, but, I was just kind of trying to take a first blush approach. You know, and Roger and I hadn't had time to really converse on it, so I might have missed the mark on a couple items, Roger, but I did try to give you a little something to take a look at least for today's purposes.
Yeah, no, I think we got an idea, I think. Point being, we're not in dire straits. You know,
It's good stuff.
financially.
And I think, you know, the more we work this, the better we'll get.
Remind me, Ethan, what was the one-time funding? There's a balance of 62.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Items that you were,
go ahead and direct you to the screen. If you could go to that tab that says 185, I appreciate that. All right, and oh yeah, I've got a back problem, so forgive seeing me hobble around today. So this is the accounting here of the 185 one-time funds, and if you can scroll down towards the bottom just real quick, these lower stuff, okay, we'll go back up again. This is expended already, okay? And so up again, higher, you see it says completed here, a little higher now. All right, we go back up to the top, and then you see we had some items that were left in the pending category, and so we in that pending category, we had $62,558 left to you know, get spent to resolve that one-time dollar amount. And just as a reminder, we ended up using some of that for operations because of the lag time between the FY 2025 appropriations, and so that's why some of this has been held in reserve. Additionally, if you read the email I sent out, you'll see that we did get kind of close to the wire, you know, with things like the application fees and from the registrations and the application fees from the office here in real time being significant factors on keeping us out of the red. So these are items that I believe we should move forward with, you know, acquiring, and then that would help us to resolve the finality of that $185,000 one-time fund. Does that help?
yeah, I mean. Some of those too, we put in as placeholders, so I remember just to get it up to 185.
Sure. It's
So we
not
can-
spent till it's spent.
Right, so there's room for adjustments.
Of course, yep. And so, this, being one item here that, maybe is a factor in, you know, your forward going, action, there's later in the agenda, there's an item to talk about, but, just so you know, that was an element that was estimated that is, included in this, in the 185. Is that,
Yeah, and just for the board's memory, when we then met with Melissa and Kayla, they told us that even though we thought we had to have that 185 spent out, and they told us no, that it didn't have to be spent out. So then that was the balance of what was left. And so they said, yeah, just give us an idea of how you want to spend it. And so that's how that arrived. So, you know, like I say, there's some room maybe for some,
So there's been some
flexibility.
recent purchases that are eating up into that 185. If I don't have the exact number, but 62,000 left isn't correct. So I think we're right around 25,000. So.
that.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I'll be good to get your numbers and see where we're at in actuality. If we got it spent out this year, we're close to it, sure the living entities would be happy with that.
all right, we can go back over to the other
Can you send us that little sheet there?
Of course. I'm gonna send you a whole spreadsheet with all the different tabs. Now, if you go over to the bottom of this item here. And so what I just show you here is, see on this 425, why don't you change that to say 225,000. So you see, that modifies where we end up over here on, on how the budget, again, as it's set for purposes of the funding agreement, where we would end up. And so if we need to start planning for additional vacancy savings to make up for FY 2027, we can, roughly use this tool to do that. We can also make, of course, any adjustments to some of the actual line items as they adjust. And if you'll scroll back up again.
So is the vacancy savings just the hydrogeologist position, or what is that?
No, there are higher end values set with some of these positions. I haven't quite been achieved yet.
Okay.
And so it is an array of items on that front. And as you'll remember, we had a fair amount of discussion about how we were gonna describe that money and vacancy savings and carryover will be landed upon terms. So I stuck with those terms for purposes of this effort here.
Yeah.
I do have, a one sheet, budget versus actuals if you want to consider it.
No, it's hold on.
Okay.
Get it final.
Then, of course, longer term, as we move through this year and next year, is to really be then looking to make projections to make better requests to the legislature for the next legislative session. Maybe more timely requests and more clear requests for what that funding should be in those agreements.
I generally think we should try to be prepared to do that by like August of this year.
That would be great. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thanks, Ethan.
Certainly.
We're getting there finally.
Yeah. So that got us through your 5-1, 5-2, so we're on to 6-1. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Item 6-1, we will start off with the office updates, and in the office updates, there is you've got, the first item is that you have this water rights updates, and here you can take a look at how busy the office staff have been, and there's 2025 has already issued more water rights than 2024 or 2023. And so there's been a lot of work on that front. We've also received in 2025 a total of 33 extensions, which is equal to 2023 and 2024 combined. So you could think about that being whatever it is, but we think of that as like we're meeting our deadlines maybe faster than our clients are. So, that's the situation that we're at right now. And then as a reminder, if you apply, you get within either 30 days of your initial application or 30 days, after having, resolved an application defect. Once you get a preliminary approval for something like a domestic allowance or a development domestic allowance, you have 1 year to drill that well. Then another year after the well drilling to get your home built and hooked up, at least hooked up for the most part. And then regardless of if you're ahead of that schedule, you have 120 days after having put water to use to file your completion notice with our office. And so people are, when you know, people's deadlines that they're running up against are either occurring because they didn't get a well in within the first 1 year, and that's a timeline set forth right out of the ordinance, or they didn't get their house built within the second, you know, the second total year of everything, having 2 full years to reach that level. And then when they apply for an extension, the largest extension that we'll give them is 6 months at a time. Because once you get an extension, that would presumably hold your space should some other groundwater management area or some other kind of thing occur. So you gave us guidance that 6 months was the appropriate amount of time for extensions. We do not have a maximum number of extensions, so you could presumably keep filing for an extension if your home project takes too long, which many of them frankly do. I've been in some of those personally, so I'm not throwing stones at anybody else's glass house on that pun, but that is a pretty active amount of some of our traffic that we have here in the office. I just wanted you to be aware of that, and staff's doing a great job corresponding with folks who've missed their deadlines. Some of the early applicants, you know, they had missed things for quite a while in advance. Some of the stuff that we had authorizations issued by board members, if you'll recall. Those are still cycling around out there, things that were signed by George or Roger or Ken, back in the, we'll call it the early days. Anyway, did you want to bring up anything else because Sid and the other staff put this together, did a great job, I think. Did you have anything else you would add?
Not particularly, but I would like to thank Amanda and Christine for all of their hard work. Getting those issuances, thank you.
Thank you. All this data helps. I mean, for the point in time when it's all gonna come together.
I have a question.
Yeah. Perfect.
And I don't know if you have an answer to this. Just as you were unpacking this, I'm just curious, where are we in Lake County right now? Somebody goes in to get a building permit. They want to build, they want to get a well drilled. I'm only asking because we had a neighborhood, my neighborhood bought ground and they were told it's a 3-year wait to get a contractor. So on a new build. So, you know, where does that put well drillers and where does that, you know, you got a sense for that? And I know it's going to have an impact on folks applying, right? So.
When you can see it under those extensions.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, that's
33 of them,
like
right?
kind of that's a data point, I think,
Okay.
that feeds right into that. And I would say most of the extensions that we see are not caused of well drilling and availability. At least, that's been my experience. Does anybody else want to add anything?
It's not the well drilling. So the well drillers are keeping up. Okay,
I think general, is that what you're hearing? Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, almost
Yeah,
all of them that we
okay.
receive are
Cool.
either
Yep.
extensions.
okay. Yeah, so it's the other end of the trades that are the bottleneck. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, people cite different things from money to contractors to taking longer than we thought, you know. Et cetera, and we have you know, it's not like it has to be, you don't have to have all your finished cabinets and everything all sorted out, but, we do need as-bills.
Sure.
That will reasonably demonstrate that you've met the maximum limits of your authorization. So that's kind of where we face things like. And we have had a couple of circumstances where we reduced the preliminary authorization so that they could just get the water right for a lesser, maybe they thought it was gonna be a house and a guest house and a shop with a bathroom, but then all of a sudden it's just a house. And so you can always come back to try to add on, assuming you have the free space and the total available permit exception annual volume. But it's a separate application.
Sure.
So people are weighing that factor in to either get part of it done right now. Or keep extending, keeping it open.
Yeah, well, I brought it up because if things continue in the current pattern, extensions are gonna be the norm.
Well, and if it's taken 3 years to get a contractor lined up, that means somebody's gonna have 6 extensions almost, or 4 extensions.
Yeah.
So I know when we developed the 6-month period, we were trying to be conservative. I'll just throw this out, would it be? If we went to 12 months, it'd save you guys half that amount of time too. So could we consider that?
The board will choose whatever direction it wants to. From our standpoint, those are some of the easiest things for us to move. In terms of like the amount of time that it takes per application fee coming in the door, they're probably the easiest thing for us. But whether or not you go a different direction, we're happy to accommodate.
How much time do you spend on it?
Typical extension can come in and, there's been a couple of outliers where there's been, where they have affiliated lands and we have to go back and do a reevaluation based on other domestic allowances that have gone in within the affiliated zone. That's rare. I think there's maybe only 2 of those that I know of. For the most part, those come in and, what is that like? 20 minutes?
Yeah.
20 minutes?
I would think, generally, I understand what you're saying, and then the other hand, for not getting applicants making those requests for longer extensions, because I think it's the applicants. I mean, they get every 6 months an additional fee, right? So if that was put out 2 years, and less cost for them. But if they're not following it.
What's the application fee for the extension again?
If they haven't missed their deadline, it's $65. If they have missed the deadline, it's $115.
Cool. So a little $12 or something a month to keep your foot in the door.
Yeah, it's just something to consider. It just seems like all the trades are getting backed up. It's taking longer to get electrical inspections. It's taking longer to get materials, trying to resource materials because we were getting a lot of our building materials out of Canada. And now that's problematic. And so, clearly I'd like to get more data on this and just see what are we looking at.
So we do brief people about this common problem when they come in to apply for a new use. Since the court case that happened off the reservation, there has generally been a decoupling between the subdivision review process and the water rights.
Oh, okay.
So that arrangement, you remember how much time we spent discussing pre-review or what's it called?
Redetermination.
Predetermination, thank you, appreciate that, this is Roger. All that time we came up with the system and then DEQ even incorporated boards like this one into their administrative rules and then that, that changed. So, at present, you wouldn't need to necessarily have one of our letters in the hand, as far as I understand, to get your application through, DEQ. That said, though, a lot of people want to have that certainty. And that, because we haven't had this conversation a number of times, there's sometimes a preference to be like, I want to know what I can actually build and that I have that level of certainty, so.
So, yeah, I think, if you want to consider that, we should certainly consider that. It makes, even though I'm a proponent of keeping it simple, the other thing that comes to my mind is maybe an option. When they come in for extension, do you need 6 months or do you need a year? I mean, have different rates for those.
Yeah. It's not bad, I think.
That way it's their choice then.
Yeah, I can't say like Georgia, why don't you do a little evaluation and see where you guys feel it would be appropriate?
Yeah.
Or if it's appropriate.
Sure, we'll have a group discussion about it at our next staff meeting and contemplate some options. Do our best to come back to you, so. The next two items that you have are these beautiful blue and pie charts and bar charts. This is the pie charts are the walk-in and the phone calls for the month of May. So just a little glimpse into what's going on in May. And then we've got the bar charts here, which May is only at a partial right now. So really very happy that staff have done such a great job tracking this stuff. When you have a busy office, this is some of the hardest stuff to keep on top of, to tick the boxes for tracking purposes, but do you have anything you want to add? Okay.
That takes effort to make that data. Appreciate it.
Some interesting trends. People like to call and come in on Mondays. Nobody likes to do anything on Wednesday. And they pick up again on Friday.
So this is part of why I don't see a bunch of stuff on Wednesday.
Oh, well, that's right. We're here.
And so people are aware that sometimes it's a situation when they want to talk to somebody, they try not to come on Wednesday.
That's right. This is just May of this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've had our board meetings float on different days, haven't we, over the years, but
Some people do ask in advance before they come in, what day are.
shocking. They planned. That's awesome.
Well, and it's getting, and making people more aware of what we do and how we do it, and it's becoming integrated into our lives.
Great, shall I continue, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, any questions? Yes, please.
All right, under the public outreach factor, the CITT and the DNRC have moved their stock meeting another time, and they're planning to meet this Friday. They have got space across the street at the building across the street. Development is in order.
Economic development.
Yes, and so we're poised to try to do some coordination. Should somebody who got one of the stop water grants need to simultaneously apply for the stop water allowance. So that has been a little bit of a moving target, as the CIT team, works through their process.
Did we talk to them? How busy is that?
I have talked to them and it's a little hard for me to figure out exactly how busy they are. They have 80. On the front side, they think that they've got 80 successful applicants. And so really our main look at it is that we're anticipating 80 applications, and that's a good chunk.
Process, I'm sure the advertising, but once we have that many applicants, it's word of mouth too, so people are gonna be aware.
And that will be for folks who have received the grant, affirmation, so that's the stage that they're at, okay? Furthermore, on different topics, the board's registrations have been, I understand Haley's got them organized. And we have tried to do some efforts from a separate end to do an online query and see if we can get a good match. I suspect soon we're gonna end up with a high quality spreadsheet of all of the registrations. And then that will be something that we use to track requests that are made from our office to your Helena office. And I'm looking forward to getting that going. We have already got plans to request the group that we've already, remember, we've already issued some registrations that were high priority registrations, but we have done that through a manual variant. So we have a list of those that we want to pull those in because they're mostly all done. We want to get them resolved and off the spreadsheet to make sure that they're all situated correctly in wires. We have a handful of new and other high priority ones. So I suspect when next we meet, I'll be reporting that we have issued our first formal request to your Helena office for some registrations.
Very good.
There was also a procedure that we emailed out to the board for how the request will work, so shall be aware of how that works.
Just create that documentation.
Yep.
We'll have a test on that at the next meeting. In wireless updates, there's gonna be significant activity for May and June releases. Again, that's the water rights information system. We're waiting to hear a little bit more from DNRC about what's going to happen with some of the lingering items that are maybe not as solid on whether they're funded at this time. Some of the things that would be included in items that we still need to resolve would be ownership updates for F-type rights and rights on tribal trust lands, some issues of tribal trust transfer water rights. There's been an identification that we need to make some changes to the casework function for the database. And we need to make some modifications for verification abstracts, which we use for changes in use or project completion for new permits. There's some other smaller items, but I thought that list would be something I'd bring forward to let you know that list is getting quite a bit smaller. So glad that's getting to be a smaller list. Staffing updates, we're currently in a holding pattern on where we're at with our hiring and waiting to have some additional discussion with the board on the hydrogeologist position. This week it's Kathy's last week Kathy Schubert is moving on. Oh, and Kathy's online. Can you allow Kathy to talk? Kathy, are you there? Were you paying attention or did we catch you snoozing?
You caught me snoozing.
All right. Hey, board members. I think we should all give Kathy a huge vote of appreciation for working us through the bulk of this wireless project, through a ton of the water rights database training, helping me know all the things that I need to address for a new water rights office and searching for solutions. She has been an asset when she worked for the DNRC and operated to help us out at that front. And then an even bigger asset when she was kind enough to shift over and start working directly for us. So Kathy, oh my God, we're all gonna miss you.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. So thank you very much.
Kathy, from the board standpoint, I think, we're grateful for all that you've been able to do with us and for us. And is there anything we can do to talk you into staying longer?
Oh, boy.
Your work's been much appreciated. I know that from our standpoint, it's been largely behind the scenes. Ethan's been keeping us apprised of all their work that they're doing on this and the work that you've done to help us out with that. So much appreciated. Based on what you've done and what you've seen, how would you characterize where we're at and how it's going for us?
You're in a pretty good spot. I mean, I'm really disappointed that I didn't get you 100% across the finishing line, but due to some slow ups from the DNRC side, we couldn't get to the finish line quite yet, but we should have been. But anyway, that's a long story and a whole nother story, but I think you're in a pretty good spot. You've got a few things, to get done. But at least you're up and functioning and, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, and for you and Ethan, so we would be looking at trying to get to that 100% at some reasonable amount of time from this point, or what are we thinking?
I didn't hear the first half. Are you asking kind of when you're going to get to that finish line?
Yeah, I don't know. I know you and Ethan, maybe you guys have a crystal ball.
Yeah, I don't know. It all depends on, everything depends on DNRC schedule, and that's been the problem. And like I say, we should have been to the finish line by now. We should have been at the finish line in December, but it just seems like things are moving slowly on the DNRC side, and I don't know what their schedule is right now. I haven't heard anything on scheduling more story sessions or kind of what their projected outlook is. I know you do have a release coming in June, but there's a lot more work after June. So
if you had to put a percentage on it, are we 50%, 70%, 80% done, or what are your thoughts?
I don't know, Ethan, what do you think on that one? I would think we're kind of close to the 80 or 90%, but
Cool.
Yeah, I would go with 90, I think, at this point.
Once a lot of major projects, that last 10% is always sometimes the toughest, but appreciate it. I think that just gives us a good feel for understanding, conceptually where we're at with this. So much appreciated, Kathy. And best wishes to you and your future. Any other questions from board or comment from board?
No, just, if you get bored, Kathy, let us know.
I know, and I mean, I've told Ethan, it's like in case of an emergency, it's like I'm always available for a phone call to kind of try to straighten things out. So, because like you say, that last 10%, it could be kind of tricky, but so always willing to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you again, Kathy.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Okay, in other staffing news, James will be out a little bit next week. He's making his big transition to new state. And we're, gonna be navigating how that's all gonna work. So I think we're all learning a little bit as that goes forward. And so I'll be excited that we'll have DOE will have a Denver office.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, we were able to work out an arrangement with him and he's gonna stay on and work remote with us and for us for a while, or
That's the
while we
plan.
needed and primarily focused on.
He has handled an array of things in recent times. He does all the stories for Wireless as they come through. So he and Kathy Schubert have worked in tandem on that front. Recently, he provided a hydrologic review for a pending recommended decision that's coming out of this office, specifically looking at irrigation and water diversions relating to that. And so he's also been helping just generally organize water rights, do water rights database training and continuity. Really, sort of a lot of things. And my intention is definitely to try to foster him sticking around at that remote level as much as possible.
Yeah. Really good. Thank you.
How many hours a week does it generally put in?
It's kind of hard to,
Generally,
it's hard to pin down, we'll say 30,
really? What's in that?
no, not a week, sorry, I'm in pay period. I'm in my pay period, I guess, so 15 a week, sorry about that. Sometimes less. Sometimes half of that, yeah. Let's see, definitely, we've had some challenges with staffing, picking up Fridays. It reveals that we need to get, we need to get more folks to handle some of the office functions, especially when we have folks out on leave.
As far as staffing goes, though, we're approaching some new hires here, or
I'm waiting to hear back from you guys on what my next steps are for hiring.
what we've got, so where do we stand with that? What's going on with that? Is there a decision to be made on a position, or we trying to advertise?
There was a,
I'm just.
Sure. Sure, so there was discussion about, do we need a firm hydrogeologist? Can we hire that position as a hydrologist? What's the next steps? At the last board meeting, we talked about that item. It was a question that you had, Mr. Chairman. I tried to, kind of coordinate with Roger and talk through it. On all fronts, it would be great to have somebody who had a little bit more groundwater experience and modeling experience. We have also had that particular position open for the longest amount of time without seeing anybody other than one applicant with the skill set. And so the what to do now is in front of us.
And so before we talk any more about that, is it just the one position? right now, we're kind of,
At present, yes.
when we did talk, I think you would. Kind of, talked about maybe touching base with Roger, and I don't know if they had a chance to do that, and you're out with it, I guess. We had one applicant. And they didn't meet the hydro geologist, remind me, hydrogeologist
Right, so the,
criteria.
the person we looked at definitely would be a good hire. They did not have as much groundwater experience, and so we'd be training on that front if we had that.
You had other applicants, but they were all not able to work in country or something.
There was a lot of, so we had, I think it was 11 applicants. And out of those, there was one viable applicant, either they didn't meet the minimum standards or they didn't provide the appropriate country, confirmation that they're able to work in that state.
My brain is starting to catch up to what our conversation was, so yeah.
So, yeah, Ethan and I had some conversation on this, and I think Ethan followed up, and I'll just try and paraphrase what he told me, is that you followed up with the DNRC hydrogeologist and found there is a considerable difference in the curriculum base between a hydrogeologist and a hydrologist. It's really, it'd be like having a petroleum geologist, asking him to do a job of an aeronautical or engineer, they don't have the same skill set. The guy, two things. One is, the guy that came through is a hydrologist. He has some pretty good water rights background. And he is a potential candidate, but also we've kind of got that slot filled is the problem. One of the guys that you mentioned that didn't qualify, I called him. He's gonna get his master's in June, so he would then qualify as having the credentials of master's degree in hydrogeology. And I just asked him if he was still interested. He said, yeah, but he comes, I think, with very, very little experience. I think he's been in academia the whole time. I didn't look at his resume as close, but I just wanted to find out where he was at in his process. If he was 2 years out or a year out or what, but he's a month away. So the other big thing I wanted to do is get this budget meeting done and see where we're at so that we can see if there's any flexibility in that budget then to look at this other guy that isn't a hydrogeologist. So I would like to do that before we come up with a decision on which direction we're going. Because there may be money there that, there may be some, with Kathy and James going, we're losing Kathy. Maybe we can replace somebody on a contract position, or maybe we use that for vacancy savings, or maybe, there's other funding in this budget that we can allocate to doing more hiring. So that's where I'm at until, and I think we're within a week or two of getting this budget stuff figured out. So I think we'll be able to make some decision on how the direction we want to go at that.
One of the things, and just a thought in your discussion, was if we went with someone like this individual, as we need the hydrogeologist and groundwater modeling expertise. One option, at least we threw out, was if we brought that individual on, and as we need that level of expertise, could we contract for that? As we need,
And,
as an option.
and that's a possibility. One of the catch-22s on that, though, in my mind, was, okay, if we hire somebody that's locally, with a consulting firm, most of those consulting firms are, once we get our permitting process in place, they're the ones that are gonna be putting the applications together for their clients, you know?
Want to avoid that conflict of
And so
interest.
they, right, exactly, yeah, so then they're in a conflict of interest. So I was trying to grapple with how to deal with that, but
I did find, a few firms that are like down south. You know, that would be less likely to be operating right here. I also have,
South
some
is in Montana or
No.
south is in Arizona?
Arizona.
Out there.
I did also, you know, I think there's some potential with some, retired DNRC folks that I know. If that was an option, people who were hydrologists, that special, had groundwater specialization, but that's all loose until it's not loose, you know?
the one guy that ranked pretty high was a hydrologist, not a hydrogeologist. He was a guy that took an early retirement from the Forest Service too.
Oh,
So I think there's gonna be a plethora of those guys available to some degree.
yeah.
You know, maybe we can find somebody to contract to.
Oh, I think that came up in our last conversation too, Georgia made a particular point about. But yeah, so downsize or get rid of the USGS. People looking for work.
Yeah, and that's being actively discussed right now, so.
Yeah, so I think, anyway, we've got some options open on the table, and I think it's
Yeah.
appropriate to, you know, like you said, consider the budget and see where we're at. All right, good.
The USGS is downsizing that. We just had training with the division manager for USGS and they're short staffed right now. They're gonna be dropping on 4 sites, so you just can't do it. We might end up picking that up.
You know, a list of where their people are, and it's, get all of them.
Okay.
All right, Ethan.
Sorry to stand up here.
No, you're good, sir. You don't need to do that.
That concludes where we're at with staffing updates. We do have a couple of, milestones that I'm looking at. Pretty excited about us hitting, such as, moving our first development domestic allowance, moving our first, recommended decision. Staff, especially Sydney, has done an excellent job on, working through things, and Amy's lended their hand on that recommended decision front, and just I'm excited about those things moving along. Those are significant new taxi water rates to be getting handled by our office. And that's the conclusion of like updates from our office.
All right, any questions? And the development domestic allowance and the pending recommended decision, that's tied to the domestic allowance.
The development domestic allowance is one of those domestic allowances for up to 10 acre feet annually. That has a higher level of requirements such as water measurement.
And the next one, decision is, that's what the decision is pending or what?
That is an application we have for the flathead system compact.
Oh, yeah.
That you had that applicant before you, and that's been moving along.
Very good. Very good. Not to, jump too far ahead, but as we, do we have any sense of when the groundwater management area applications are gonna start the year. We're gonna see one or two.
One big one for sure. I think there's gonna be another one following shortly thereafter, but
I'm aware that there were two that they were working on, so.
yeah,
I didn't know if they were both ready or, okay. The development domestic allowance, one that you're working on. Where is that roughly?
it's
It's a battle.
Okay. Interesting.
and just so you're aware, the significance of reviewing one of those applications as compared to other ones, and I'll probably talk about that specific application once we get, activity on it, like I will be interested to distribute that to you so that we can talk about, like you'll transcend from the abstract policy that you developed to seeing an actual, action because, I mean, it's different than something that would be a recommended decision where there would be that more formal appeal role that you need to distance yourself from until the end of the appeal period. So, which is the only reason that we wouldn't do that immediately with the recommended decision for the finances back water. So, but on things that I can discuss with you, it is, I'm actually very excited to have discussions with you to see if the actuals ran the way you thought that they would on the ground.
You know, not for decision making, but for information purposes.
Exactly, and well,
I understand your process.
and possibly if you think you need to reevaluate some policy, which so, I wouldn't divest yourself entirely from decision making, but to see where you're at and whether you needed to do something different.
Yeah.
So,
Very good. Any other questions? So does that put us on number 7?
it does, as far as I can tell, sure.
Go for it. Want to remind us where we're at with that, because I think where we're at was we did a couple interviews at the last discussion we had. I think we had also talked about potentially having a brief discussion with both of them one more time. Is that correct? Is that still of interest, or are we ready to make a decision?
If I recall, we talked about, it, we didn't decide we wanted to.
Okay, yeah, I'm just throwing it out. So where do you guys want to go with this?
Personally, and of course, I'm just speaking for myself, I don't see a need for meeting with them again.
Yeah, I would agree with Ken. I think we had interviews. We need to just make a decision and go for it. I've got both of the SOQs here if anybody wants to take a refresher of them too. So,
You guys want to take a few minutes and look it over, talk about it?
one of them was the bigger firm, with a lot more tribal experience. The other was the smaller firm that was a younger group of people. Anybody wants to take a look at these?
So unless I hear a motion, I'll just go around and see what the straw poll looks like. What are you thinking?
I'd like to hear everybody else first. Okay? Because you guys have actually sat and met with them, right? And I haven't.
Yeah.
So I wasn't privy to that. So you guys have I could be led either way.
Have you looked at the material?
I have looked at the material and I am familiar with the bigger company and their work. I'm not at all familiar with the other company, so I don't feel I'm equal in my assessment of It's those of you who've met with them, so.
So I could go first if you want.
Sure.
Okay. Basing it on kind of a life example, my older daughter's soccer team, when she was like 14 or so, won the state championship. Everybody's surprised. Everybody's just blown away. And the coach at the parents' dinner afterwards said the difference in this game was our girls wanted to win, and the other team expected. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here a little bit. I think the larger firm expects, because they've got so much expertise.
Mhm.
I think the smaller firm wants it.
Mhm.
And I just think maybe they want it, they might try harder.
Mhm.
So my vote's, and I said this the last one, I think my vote would still be with the smaller firm, but I'd be comfortable either way.
Well, what Ken's saying there is, both interviewed really well. I do like the smaller firm also, but then on the other hand, the bigger companies got a lot of experience dealing with the tribe, and as far as I know, they've been successful with what they've been doing. So I would favor the MMW.
Oh, yeah, they were a little different. MMW definitely had the more experience and the, local knowledge of having worked on three or four probably projects on the reservation. And so they, I think, well, I don't know, they understand the situation. They did offer to do some initial work up front at their cost. But yeah, I kind of, with a smaller firm, I know, having run a small business myself, I always wanted, if I could get my foot in the door with a good client, I would make extra hard to perform, and go the extra mile. And I kind of feel that that's these guys' situation, that they're hungry. They want to expand and add more to their resume, and for that reason, I'm kind of leaning toward that.
Mhm. I think we're fortunate to have two great options here.
Mhm.
I think the one that's been here a long time would be a great option. I think that they're not going anywhere. I think that if we ever need to rely on them, we should and we can. I don't think they would. I think if we really have extra work, especially with them to come in and do something, we could do that. It was just for the sake of moving this forward. From my perspective, I would want to lean toward the low side or low-key or whatever that I forget how to pronounce it. I'd be comfortable with that, put it that way. And the other one would be, I think that's a good analogy. If we kind of slam dunk. But I think we're gonna start somewhere. And I think that would be good. Either one would be a good choice. I'd be comfortable with that if we went with that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, technically comfortable with Lucy also.
Yeah.
That one more comment.
Yes, sir.
I think a little competition might be good.
Yeah.
For both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing that I failed to mention was, these guys are the main contact, but they have a whole team of people behind them. And they basically have the same team on both, for both contractors, or both architectural firms, for the most part. So really, we're going with the architecture because they're still bringing the same engineering firms, planning firms, and the rest to the table.
Yeah.
Both teams are.
Roger, didn't Loci work with WGN too.
Yeah,
That's a really reputable firm
exactly. So,
in terms of water work, so.
well, in terms of their structural and planning and all of that, yeah.
The one thing that, I mean, not that it should tip the scale, but I think, again, my theory of this process has been that what we want first is an estimate of what it's gonna take to develop the full plan. With that estimate, the cost of actually doing that estimate is what we need. And that would mean they would need to meet with us and spend a little time with us, getting to give us that estimate. If they're willing to do that, that would be great without, upfront cost, that'd be great. But just to do that, if they need some upfront cost, we did have some money set aside, but my original thought and theory was that whatever that estimate is, that's what we need to go request. And as soon as we make a choice here, it's my intention to go to the state and the tribe. I'll notice that we're doing this. I had talked to them and they had indicated that we should try to move forward. Well, we're trying to move forward. So I would want two things. One is for them to help us out with some additional funding to cover that for that purpose. And two, to start the process of finding a location. That was my theory. That was what's still in my head. If you think different, well, you want to take this a different route, that's fine, but that was my thinking. And so if we make that choice, we, expect we're going to talk to these guys and see, what they would be willing to do, what they would require to get that first estimate to us.
Well, as I recall from the interview, kind of a parting shot was MMW offered to do that at their cost, but LoSci, they gave us a range of, I think, $1,500 to $2,500 or something for doing that initial work. And I guess,
And even at that, that's not great.
no, I have no, they're in business to me.
Yeah,
For a reason, so I don't have any problem paying them that fee either, so.
What is the, strategy still, you guys still good with that strategy?
Yeah.
And, are we ready to make a decision? Are we ready for public comment on this? Somebody gonna be ready to take action here pretty quick?
Yes.
Okay. So before we actually, take action on that, we have, two firms we're ready to make a decision on one of them. We'll take public comment. Yes, before I do that, Kim.
George has yet to weigh in.
Well, Ken, yeah, there you go. Thanks, Ken. Georgia, now that you've heard it all, I think everyone is almost 50-50 with each of these. But I think trying to move this forward, I think we kind of see where we're leaning. So.
After hearing the discussion, I'm leaning toward LoSci.
Okay. Please, thank you. So, any public comment on, decision here to hire a firm for some building planning between MMW and LoSci, both companies out of Missouri?
If anyone online would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and I will allow you to speak. Seeing no public comment.
Okay, so we've been through this. There's no public comment online. There's nobody in the audience here to make public comment. So with that, we'll close the public comment and take a motion if someone wants to make that motion to select.
Well, I'll make a motion that, we select LoSci architecture and design from Missoula to hire as a building planner, designer.
I have a motion by Roger,
I'll second it.
second by George, and we'll do, go around on this one now. George,
I agree.
Ken, yes. George,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes,
I'm a yes. We have approval. So, we can direct our staff to reach out to them. And, let's start the process.
you know, I think we had I thought we had a little building committee on this, didn't we? But
George and I,
Yeah, and so with this is their proposal, we probably need to get to a contract, so that's probably the next thing is once we once we say we want to select them, that we probably need to get to a contract discussion, so I'm not sure. You know, if they have a format that they want us to look at, or if we need to put something together, I think we should have that discussion with them. So,
yeah, most of them have a standard. Services agreement,
yeah,
so once you notify Ethan, then they'll probably send that.
send it to us.
Here, you can review it,
Yeah.
and I guess what I would suggest then is that. Have some sort of kickoff meeting. With the committee, and you know, you should probably be involved to convey the things that.
Yeah.
You desire. So just to get this process going,
Yeah.
that's the usual thing, is to have a kickoff meeting in person.
And then that means, if you call them and initially they accept and we're on path to do that, and we should probably do a short formal letter to the other company, just thanking
Yeah,
them,
that's right.
saying that, you know, we appreciate what they've done. We may have a need to work with them in the future, kind of thing. Keep that door open, but indicate that we're going in a different direction. Something like that. All right. I've got in the personal life, we've got a project that me and my family have been working on, and it's been a big project and taken several years, and every time we get together and do a little work on it, we say, we've come to start saying another day, another dent. So, another day, another dent, we make a little dent here, and so, we continue making progress, I think we're in good shape, so. Ethan, any questions for us on this?
I think I understand what I'm supposed to do.
Okay. Haley, anything? Okay. All right, very good. Good job, guys. Well, you are everything there.
Yeah.
Nice work, George.
So let me just touch base here. We're scheduled to go to one. Question for you is, do you want to complete the regular session by one and then do the executive session? Or would you like to be completed with the executive session by one? And the reason I ask is because it is now already 12:24, and given that, if you want to be completed with everything, including the executive session by then, we should probably wrap up here in the next 5 or 10 minutes and go through our executive session. So whatever you guys want to do.
for me, I'd suggest you stay with the regular agenda, because I need to leave shortly after one, but you don't need me at the executive session.
I'm kind of on the other end, the opposite side of that. I guess I would like to wrap this up and do the executive session, because then at 2 o'clock, we have a budget committee meeting for 2 hours.
Well, I think that's consistent still with what you're saying. So that, even though we don't think you need to be there, we'd like to have you. So,
Yeah.
Georgia?
I'm on that budget meeting too, so
Okay.
I'd like to wrap it up.
So is there anything we can wrap up, anything on the regular agenda that we can touch base on? I know that we had a couple items here, personnel policies, And then the scenario, then we hold off on the scenario, is there something about the personnel policies we can deal with right now, or?
They all went up to public comment, right? All three of them.
There was one section I had in there that I have considerable comments on that will take a while.
Okay, so we should hold off,
I would think so.
okay, So,
Mr. Chair, can I make
yes.
a comment on that?
yes,
So at the last meeting, I had asked if anybody has any edits or comments or questions on the entire document that went out for public comment, to send those to me so that I can incorporate it into a draft for us to review at the next meeting.
which is
And
this.
I wasn't at the last meeting.
That's okay.
so
I mean, I didn't think we would get to it,
So
but
go ahead and get them, have you sent them?
No, but I'll be glad to do that.
Okay, and just as a good reminder, if anybody has any comments on those, please give them to me.
yeah, thank you.
All right, unless there's any objection, we'll postpone those two items to the next meeting so that we can, move on to our executive session. We're talking now about, next meetings. What's listed here are some June dates.
I will hopefully be out of the country on June 11th. If they let me in. And it will not have a laptop.
Good man, right in the head.
Good for you.
I like it. I like it.
All my Crow stuff is on my laptop.
And then whatever date it is, it still says 9 to 1. Do we still need the 9 to 1 time?
I know we don't,
I know.
not for me.
Which day are we talking about?
I don't know, it just shows.
So June 4th I do, because school's still in session. That's the last week of the quarter. After that, I'm off the chain, so it can be any day, anytime.
So you need 9 to 1 on the 4th.
If our next meeting's on the 4th, yeah.
I'm pretty much free after Monday.
Jealous. Good for you.
What's the date?
Those are Tuesday.
So, all right, so we have June 4th listed here. Is June 4th gonna work for everyone?
I'll check in if, does that mean like you would possibly be free on the 5th, on the Thursday instead?
If it were in the morning, I don't
Oh.
teach till 2:30 in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
that week she's out, so we're still 9 to 1 on the 4th.
The following week, the quarter is done. So
In the following week, at that point, then Ken is not available.
Ken is gone.
Anyway, unless he wants to take us with him.
please. Get me out of the country.
So we did the 4th, a couple more weeks out would be the 18th.
That works for me.
Yeah, I think it works for me. I should be back. If they let me.
Well, should we do the 4th, 9 to 1, and then tentative, the 18th, and then at our regular time? Okay,
Not to put a kink in it, but that is a holiday. The 19th is a holiday, and I didn't know if people try to bracket that with their days off, if that poses a conflict for anybody.
good catch. So is that an issue with anybody?
I myself, school is also out, for the kiddos on the 13th, and I would like to take, the 16th, the week of the 16th off.
And we'll be pushing us into the next week if we're gonna do a second meeting in June. Thoughts?
I'm fine with that last week in June, if it frees up people's vacation time. I know how you can maximize those days off.
And that would allow us to skip right over the 4th of July week. Early July meetings. So, So let's go back to the fourth. We're good on the fourth?
Yes.
Okay. So how about the, 25th, 25th?
Mr. Chair, I'll be out for a funeral, that weekend, but. I mean, you guys can proceed without me if you feel you can. I'm available the 24th, but I leave the 25th for Michigan.
If we did the 24th, you know, certainly wouldn't want you to have to drive all the way and drive back, but we could do remote at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'm available that whole day.
Would the 24th work?
That's for me.
Yes.
Would that be 9 to 1 or?
Well, I think at that point, we can shift it to the 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So on the 4th, we're looking at 9 to 1, so it would be the 24th. At this point, tentatively, 24th. At 1 o'clock.
No more early mornings for me.
Sound fair?
I'll need some extra help with the agenda. For the 24th, like get it as far in advance as we can so that,
Yeah,
because to get the notice out,
so if we talk
that
about,
would happen.
so if we talk about that agenda on the 4th, it'll be enough time.
I'll do my best, yeah.
Sure, yeah, okay. I mean, it's 3 weeks advance, so.
And either one of those days would be viable for the open meeting training. Right?
Um,
Or is that something separate?
good question. We have any-
On the fourth, no, actually, it's okay. Yeah.
I'm off the cuff here thinking that should be a separate deal, but
I think it's should have separate too.
yeah. So you guys want to pick a day? Do that?
Maybe wait till Ethan's made some arrangements, find out what these people can do, and then we'll take it down.
Okay, give us some time periods when they're available.
Yeah, maybe on the 4th, you can update us then. So we could schedule it
Yeah.
on the date of the 4th.
Okay,
It's usually not too hard to get people to travel over to the Flathead in summer,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
yeah, they didn't have any trouble last time.
Yeah.
Just to check, like, if it was on the 23rd,
you could do that.
would that work?
I have no life. Sign me up.
it could, for me personally. It would be, how much time do they?
Half day
Half a
is
day,
what you,
Yeah,
committed
that's right.
to in consensus.
yeah, and then which half day, I have something at 1 o'clock that day. It takes about an hour. In my other meetings.
And you would need to leave here at 1 o'clock, or you would need to leave here at 12:30? Just everything on the arrangement.
No, it is at 1.
Okay.
Um, when we're done, you know, before that. Be fun. That'll work for everybody, we never wanting,
So if there was like an 8:30 to 12:30.
Oh, no, you're pushing 9.
Jen Jen is hurting over here right now.
9, I mean, half days, I mean, we say half day, but that could be 9 to 12.
Just say 4 hours on the website.
Yeah.
Maybe the 23rd is not a good day. And, sorry to just keep checking on stuff. Haley, when do you get back?
I don't need to be, present for that. I mean, that's just the board's training. So don't worry about my schedule for that meeting.
What week are you gone?
Tentatively from the 6th. Sixth through, I think the 17th.
I was targeting, so what if we did that special meeting on the 18th? Is there,
And instead of your regular meeting,
In addition to,
no, I said the 18th. We weren't targeting the 18th for a regular meeting.
okay,
You
yeah,
were saying the special meeting for the training.
yeah.
I was hoping to attend the training because.
Oh, you were gonna be gone.
Because I have the hearings
You're gone.
responsibilities that.
And you were gonna be gone. Okay, I was just trying to remember, and you're out all that week. Okay.
That's what I'm hoping for, yeah.
Well, it is training and it's something we can schedule whenever we want, so maybe we're looking at mid-July.
and do they prefer to do this training in the morning or the afternoon, or do they not care?
I
Because-
think that, she knows how you guys are, and she'll probably try and do whatever she can to accommodate. But, so she's, in the past, she's been very willing to come over here and try to help out, so yeah, I'll do my best.
Let me throw out July 8th. Hold on.
I'm just throwing out, I'd like to do some early morning fishing in July, so you guys could not grant my one opportunity to recreate, that would be awesome. So,
So afternoon meetings possibly on either the 8th or the 9th.
Well, you know, I like to sail, yeah. It's good.
now, Ken, we're gonna start arm wrestling.
How big is your boat? One person, oh. We can get off on the boat, do the training on your boat.
I'm
It's a paddleboard.
You're just giving me a hard time.
Like carrying through this real.
God. Do the training on the boat. Here we go.
One person per week.
Get inner tubes.
All have one.
So 8 or 9, so only once.
When is it, June 8th?
Well,
July.
now we're into July, so I'm thinking July 8th or 9th.
That's fine.
Which one?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they all work for me.
Shoot for the 8th and do an afternoon section.
Yes.
So Georgia can go fishing.
That's right.
There you go.
All right, tentatively, let's see what they say about that.
Okay.
All right. Motion to adjourn the regular meeting. Someone,
Motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
motion by Tim,
I'll second.
by Georgia, favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll move on to our executive session. And I see you handed out,